I mean, that says it all, right? When you're green.
That says it all, right? They're like, she's making fun of you guys. And she's making fun of Matt Walsh. Like, it's such a great thing for her to say. Like, people who like anime are the types of people who, like, I'll blow a bubble out of a bubble blower and they'll go, ah!
Haven't felt a connection with anyone? This is not...
Like, it's self-imposed
This is not
shit.
a man thing.
It's self-imposed, guys. It's like those freaking people who decide to be trans, you know? It's like those people who just decide to have gender dysphoria, right? I'm willing to come on and talk about this. Okay, are you the other person on here?
I think women have stronger bonds because we often have to be allies for one another when you're facing something like patriarchy, right?
I don't think that the terminology makes any difference whatsoever. I think that it's just a buzzword.
The coddling of it is why you have the kind of people in your chat right now that are saying I'm gonna die alone at 40 with multiple cats in my house because, you know, male
Toxic
loneliness
masculinity.
is a thing we need to take care of. But when we make fun of women's loneliness, it's that you're a lonely cat lady, yada 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 yada. Like, I just don't understand. If there's a bunch of men who are lonely, then, like, make friends?
I think they're going to hate her no matter what, but I don't think they're able to turn her takes into ammo. We're not tone. No,
it's not creating,
this is not tone. This is not tone. We're not talking about tone here.
So we did a video a while back.
So this is how this works, guys. When I start going in on him, when he starts saying really stupid stuff, you guys go over to his chat and you're like, yo, Tomfoolery is reviewing your video right now. He's freaking out. You should go talk to him. And then make it happen. Tom is gonna scout the news for a CEO actually doing any work at all. You want to talk, Mojo? I don't know if you were here yesterday when I pulled up stuff on CEOs doing work and what their positions entail, but you said you wanted to talk yesterday. I'm here for it.
We did a reaction, I guess, to Shoe0nhead's male loneliness epidemic video. And since then, I believe, has she blocked me? I don't remember. She has me. She puts me through phases of blocking. I'm not blocked. No, I'm blocked. Yeah, I'm blocked. Never mind. I'm blocked. Anyway, so now I'm blocked. Cool.
What the hell?
I'm currently blocked. We'll see how long this lasts. I do make fun of her boyfriend, though. She doesn't like that. Men deserve to be lonely, responding to backlash over male loneliness epidemic. Men deserve to be lonely. A very comprehensive and not straw man at all.
Look up some beatbox battles. Oh, there's one of my favorite ones.
This is representative. So, spoilers, Sarah is in this video. I don't know if I'm in this video. I didn't scrub enough, but I was literally just going like this. Watch. I was going like this, and I saw, I don't know if it's going to pop up. There it is. If you can see it, I see her tweet. And here's what I notice off the bat. Okay, number one, we're going to start here. We're going to start with the fucking beef. Okay, here's my beef with Shoe. That's her @. She's been getting psychos in her mentions all fucking day. Shoe0nhead knows exactly who Sarah is. She knows me. She knows Sarah. We've all been mutuals. We've all had private conversations with each other. Sarah has had private conversations with Shoe. And she's in there. And you know what I notice here? No @ scrubbing people's ats. Interesting. And suddenly I see very strange.
Wait, everybody gets mad when she doesn't scrub their ats. So I've said this before, okay? I said this when I went over, a lot of people were mad at her over her Balenciaga video as well, saying that she didn't scrub people's ads, but some of them she did. Some of them they're like explicitly blocked out, and then other ones they're not. And if you go through all of her screenshots, you can tell they're all taken on different accounts in different devices. She's not taking all of these screenshots herself. Tons of people are sending her screenshots, and lots of them are going ahead and blocking out the stuff ahead of time. So when they send them to her, it seems like she's just putting whatever they send her up on the screen. Like, she's not blocking out some ads and not others. It's just if you send it to her with the app blocked out, then she just puts it up that way. That's what it seems like. It seems like that because you can tell some of them are in dark mode, some of them are in light mode, some of them are on computer, some of them are on a phone, some of them are on an Android, some of them are on an iPhone. Like, you can tell just all of these things are very different in the way that they look, and that they're all a bunch of different devices.
Fascinating. So let's watch the video. She did the same thing to Demon Mama during her Balenciaga video. I see that, but I'm not surprised because I don't watch stuff. So yeah, not at all surprised. Let's see. So Sarah's here because she's not a content creator. So it's not like one of those things.
I just got another person in my fucking mentions with
now.
a American Psycho Patrick Bateman profile picture with a fascist thing in the background, being like, men commit suicide more, literally out of nowhere. Never seen this profile. 10 followers. Well, this has been all day for me.
Well, she put this video.
This is something that a lot of people do. Even a lot of you guys in my chat will do this, where like out of nowhere, we're just like, somebody mentions a man. You guys are like, men commit suicide at higher rates. Like, okay, chill, bro. We're not even... Wait for your moment, dude. Like, you jumped the gun a little bit. You came too early, all right? You gotta wait till we're actually getting to an area where that actually makes sense to say, all right? You're so ready to say men commit suicide at higher rates. You cannot wait.
Go out 7 hours ago and left you in the video, so that's cool though.
Yeah.
Shoe0nhead, you're invited to come talk about this dumb shit again if you want. I'm sure you don't.
If you guys are unaware, my last video was the one I've been working on for a while, called the...
I'm really annoyed she stole Chef John's music. I know it's free, it's fair use, but it's obviously Chef John's music.
Chef John claims Kevin MacLeod's music now. It's better than that stupid beat loop she's been using for years.
I guess.
Male loneliness epidemic. If you haven't watched that video, please go watch it first before you watch this one, so this all makes a lot more sense, and then come back to this one. Link in the description. Now, although there was a lot of support for this video, there was also a lot of hate. A lot of hate.
Because
the main thing was the fact that, like, there's just a bunch of lefties hating on men on the internet, right? And there's, like, so I think I talked about this with Sassafras in a VC with a bunch of people a couple weeks ago, where she was like, yeah, but she's just screenshotting random people on Twitter and acting as though that's representative of the left. It's like, no. First off, some of them are like content creators. Some of them have thousands and thousands of likes on them. But in the end, she's not acting like this is representative of the left. She's just pointing out that people like this exist, and she's saying that this is a problem. She's like, it doesn't, Shoe0nhead is not a political content creator. Shoe0nhead is not a debate bro. Shoe0nhead is not somebody who's trying to make an argument against like some sort of system, right? That's not what she does. She's an entertainer. She's just making entertaining content, and so she's going to go find a bunch of idiots on the internet and dunk on them. Pretty simple, pretty easy. It's what she always does. It's what she's always done. I just said her shtick is always the same, and it's lame. Useless? Okay, yeah, entertainment is useless. True. Like, I don't know. Go complain about football and basketball before you start complaining about Shoe0nhead. Not getting a lot of use out of that either, but we all enjoy it, so we watch it.
You are wrong. We talked about it in the video.
She had so many people kissing her ass in her own comment section, and also our video that we put out about it, like, well, technically yours. It's not mine. I wasn't even in this. I put up your video on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And it got dislike bombed by her fans.
Yeah.
If anything,
but I mean, like,
people being critical of her has more hatred than the criticism of her. Like, what?
Well, yeah.
There, again, like even Vaush dealt with this, where he was dealing with a bunch of lefties on Twitter talking about the fact that they don't care about men's issues. And they would literally say, who cares? They're men. Like, they're just being babies. They're men. They're part of the patriarchy. They can just choose not to be depressed. Like, they were just making stupid arguments. All of these people were dealing with this stuff. No, Tom, because her entertainment is not helping if she's ignoring the good left. If she is part of it. No, that, first off, again, not everybody has to do both sides everything. I know you freaking centrists want everybody to both sides everything, but sometimes you can just call people out for being stupid, all right? Sometimes you can just call out the one side.
Yeah, you know how that works. I don't give a fuck, though.
In fact, the most hate that I've probably ever received on a video ever, and if you're familiar with the content I make on this channel, that should be shocking. From angry femcells calling me ugly to angry incels saying I'm a grifter who only wants to make money or something. Ridiculous. So before we
people are entitled to their biases. It's not even about biases. Like, obviously, she's probably biased in some direction, but it doesn't even matter. It's not like every time you criticize one side, you got to go criticize the other side. You don't have to find some even middle ground every single time. Sometimes you can just criticize one side. It's fine. You can just do that. Like, if people are wrong, you can just say they're wrong. Pretty simple. It's not hard. And if you say they're wrong, people don't have to come out and be like, wait, why didn't you say the other guys are wrong? Why didn't you talk about the people who were right? Like, you don't have to do this all the time.
We get into those
ridiculous.
But like, also, I don't trust her on this because the tweet that she picked out of my shit wasn't about her or her video at all. So how many of these are going to be people just tweeting about something that wasn't her video, and she's going to say, oh, this was all hate directed at me?
She'll probably say, here's the context. This is the drama. And then, go. Is this past your stupid ad?
The red lipstick is the ad, I think.
I love saying I'm not just here for the money and doing that. I think she would say that, oh, that's the joke now because it looks stupid. Her cadence is literally the same as Greg's. Goodness. Really?
And a man will crawl through Get back to the video.
Not Greg.
Men are lacking purpose. And a man will crawl through broken glass for a purpose.
And there's a lot of truth to what she's saying there and in the whole video, which is worth watching.
No! No!
A man will crawl through.
This is bad. This is bad. Earlier, Shoe0nhead drank out of a mug, and Matt Walsh also has a mug. Yeah, it's over. It is over for Shoe0nhead.
What she's saying there and in the whole video, which is worth watching.
I mean, that says it all, right? When you're green.
That says it all, right? What? What? That says it all. There it is. That's what was it? The
purpose. And a man will crawl through broken glass for a purpose.
And there's a lot of truth to what she's saying there and in the whole video, which is worth watching.
I mean, that says it all, right?
Damn, they got him. That says it all, dude. That's it. That's all it says, and that says it all.
When you're agreeing with Matt Walsh.
Matt Walsh? I don't even think the sky is blue anymore, just to make sure that I don't ever agree with Matt Walsh. I haven't drank water in years because Matt Walsh thinks that people should drink water. I heard Matt Walsh the other day talking about how children shouldn't be molested. Like, yeah, no. Children should definitely be molested. Matt Walsh. Sorry. Sorry, buddy. Not tricking me.
There's a reason that he's like, oh yeah, I see an opportunity here. You know what I mean? It's not coincidence that he saw an opportunity to appeal to your audience, which is, of course, always going to encourage people to move to the right wing. I know she's like, but I'm a leftist. I want health care. But, you know, I guess it depends.
That video has 1.5 million views just the last week.
Thanks, Matt Walsh. You're my greatest ally. My male loneliness video.
It's crazy that she can't say I fucking hate you. Yeah, it's crazy that you can't be like, fuck you, Matt Walsh. Don't use my content.
Bro, they're like, she's making fun of you guys. And she's making fun of Matt Walsh. Like, it's such a great thing for her to say. Like, it's perfect because she's making fun of everybody at once. She's making fun of you losers for saying something like that because she knows that you're going to say something like that. And she's making fun of people who are going to, like, on the right, who think that she's actually an ally of theirs. Like, she's making fun of both sides who would actually say something so stupid.
How do you not just turn around and go like...
Right. No, now I'm being sarcastic, but she doesn't actually say anything. She has to count on you to be like, oh, that's sarcasm. But she doesn't, like, just be...
She has to count on you to be like, oh, that's sarcasm. Yeah. Yeah, that's not. They're acting like these are freaking, like, super complicated dog whistles over here. Like, she's using sarcasm, hoping you won't actually understand that maybe you'll think she actually does agree with Matt Walsh.
Fuck you, Matt Walsh. Like, don't use my content. Easy.
Yeah, some people's audiences need to be a lot more explicit. Some people allow their audiences to use their brains for a little bit.
How Shoe responds to criticism: I'm just a little girl. Please come defend me against the mean feminist. That's, I mean, you know, she's kind of doing that a little bit.
Was the fastest...
What were you going to say?
What?
I thought you were going to say anything.
Growing video...
Say anything? Say something.
On my channel to date. And there is a reason for that. It resonated with a lot of people. I got hundreds and hundreds of comments every single day by men venting in my comment section.
Wait a second. A bunch of lonely men saw Shoe0nhead throw them like...
Dude,
I'm
most
not
of
shocked.
her audience... Most of her audience are the dudes who, like, they have a Patrick Bateman profile picture, they log on to Twitter, they post that same fucking meme that's like, online prostitutes don't get opinions. They, like, do all of this sexist, fucked up shit.
Prostitutes?
Yeah, I know. It's stupid. They don't understand their own bullshit. They idolize...
Them, but I mean, like,
they idolize psychopaths on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally...
They idolize psychopaths on purpose.
Dudes who are incels. She calls her haters incels, but the people who are jumping on the train to support her are, like, men who can't get laid. In the comments section, I was reading through some of it, it's like, I'm 25 years old and I've never had a girlfriend because... I'm so shy and I got bullied for liking anime in high school.
Fuck off, anime. Everybody likes anime.
Like...
Fun. Stop. I'm weird for not really being that into anime. I'm the weird one, okay?
No. People who like anime are freaking weird. They're all a bunch of, like, foot fetish weirdos. No. People who like anime are people who like eat raw eggs for breakfast. Hell no. People who like anime have never even like thought about picking up a basketball in their life. People who like anime are the types of people who like, I'll blow a bubble out of a bubble blower and they'll go, ah! That's people who like anime.
I'm bullied for it. Not you, anime enjoyer. Weirdos. I mean, it's not surprising, Shoe, when you have a bunch of unimpressive men in your audience, and that also just want this kind of content from girls like you, right? Like, she does this little, it's not manic pixie dream girl, it's manic pixie trad wife vibe, right? And she's always trying to like push that out, and she dates the conservative schlubby guy, and they're like, I got a chance. And so of course they like this. They're gonna vent in your fucking comments because you're a girl. Guys always.
Look at this profile picture from this freaking person trying to convince me they never watched anime. You look like you have a bunch of nunchucks and swords behind your back right now. You look like you have a bunch of nunchucks and swords sticking out from behind your back over here acting like, oh, I've never watched anime before. Yeah, right. Well, nobody's buying that crap.
Dump emotional labor onto women, and you're just experiencing that. But she sees this as like positive, I'm helping attention stuff, and instead it's just like allowing men to wallow in their misogynistic worldview because she gave them permission.
Yeah, it's like, it's okay for you to go on Twitter and post OnlyFans prostitutes don't get opinions. That's not why you're lonely. It's because feminism or something.
That's right.
Feeling like for once they were being heard. And
can we pause some of these?
Yeah.
I want to go through these. I want to see what she
It is lonely.
The worst part is that you do at
Constantly.
certain times worse than others.
No matter what you try to do, but it is constant feeling overall.
Like for
I'm 32, a dishwasher, and haven't felt a really connection with anyone since I quit drinking. I want to kill myself. I'm not
hundreds of
I want to see what she
It is lonely.
The worst part is that you do at
Constantly.
certain times worse than others.
No matter what you try to do, but it is constant feeling overall.
like for
I'm 32, a dishwasher, and haven't felt a really connection with anyone since I quit drinking. I want to kill myself. I'm not going to, but the thoughts are there. Like, she's just using this as like, she's
Haven't felt a connection with anyone? This is not
like, it's self-imposed.
This is not a
shit.
man thing.
It's self-imposed, guys. It's like those freaking people who decide to be trans, you know? It's like those people who just decide to have gender dysphoria, right? It's just like those people who decide that they want to be ostracized by society, and then all of a sudden they can't, they have trouble fitting in. Well, maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to switch to the other team. Ever think about that? These are societal problems. Like, these are not, it's not as simple as like, oh, they're just choosing to be alone. They love being alone. You can tell how much they just love being suicidal, guys. Come on. It's self-imposed, guys. Come on.
This is not a man thing. I don't even want a bunch of women or sex. At this point, I just want to be seen and heard. I always feel like I need to provide for others, but when I need a shoulder to cry on, I'm on my own. Oh, so toxic masculinity.
Like I need to provide for others.
A thing, a social phenomenon. A social phenomenon that we agree is toxic and perpetuated by men. And yet, when you talk to me about it, when I say, yeah, that's toxic masculinity and you're buying into it, you don't need to feel that way. You're putting this on yourself based on how society thinks that your gender ought to act.
What are you doing? How can he say both of those things at the same time? He just said that back to back. You're choosing to do this based on what society is forcing on you. What is happening, dude? The cognitive dissonance. It's one after another. You're choosing to do what society is forcing on you. This is insane. This guy, the lengths that these people have to go to deny this crap is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. Why? Why do you do it? Really, why? Why do you have to do this? You could just be right. You know that, right? Like, you could just be right. It's not that hard. It's really not.
You reject it outright and just go, no, 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 it's actually right. I should feel like shit. It's fucking crazy. It's actually crazy. What? This is self-imposed loneliness. This isn't real fucking actual loneliness. Okay? You're being antisocial weirdos.
These are the kinds of dudes.
He's doing it again. This is self-imposed. You're being antisocial weirdos. Like, I don't know how. I really don't. I don't know how people just, like, want to be wrong so badly. I don't know how they get to the point where they're just dying to sound like an idiot.
To use women for free therapy whenever they like.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
They don't.
Guys, it's the patriarchy. Patriarchy affects both men and women, but when it affects men, it's because men chose to be affected by it because it's the patriarchy, guys. So, like, men are in charge. So, obviously, if you're a man, you're the president of the world. Each individual man is the president of the entire world, and he is the one deciding that he's going to have all the problems that he's going to have imposed by society.
It's like emotionally stunted people who have been, who are victims of capitalism and the fucking world that we're in,
and they don't understand
they don't understand how to address their problems, and so, like, look, you're told to be a man.
This is
the worst toxic masculinity.
The worst feeling in the world is when you're taught to push through and bury your emotions all your life, and then to be laughed at or told to be a man when you do finally open up emotionally. You motherfucker.
And who's doing that?
You
men.
Motherfuckers.
It's men.
It's perpetuated by men. What? Leftists all over the world are like, reject this. Ignore what the gender shit is supposed to be. Men don't have to act a certain way. They don't have to be stoic. They can be.
Look, guys, because you like capitalism, I want you to suffer. Because you like capitalism, I want you to suffer. I'm happy that you're suffering. We could say, like, you know, look, things might be better under a socialist system. We could probably fix all of these issues. But because we're not going to do it my way, we're going to make sure that you suffer as much as possible. We could, like, you know, we could give you some help under capitalism and, you know, try to make some social changes to societies so that you don't have to suffer so much. But is this some sort of accelerationist bullcrap where they want people to suffer as much as possible so they revolt faster? Like, what is this bullcrap? Is that what's going on here? Is like, oh, let's make sure that you guys are going to be as insane as possible. Tomfoolery Show, roast Jake hard. I just went into his live stream and asked if he would talk to you, and he was rude as fuck. Yeah, he's if I was him and somebody asked me to talk to Tomfoolery, I would be rude as fuck as well. I would also be rude as fuck.
Be emotional, and they ought to be, and the left is saying this, and when you express the exact thing they are giving you permission to do, you reject it. You reject the notion. It's fucking crazy.
But, like, also, you're... women don't just, like, waltz into friendships. It's not just, like, handed...
Tomfoolery Show, he didn't know who you were and was awful. The socialist goes and is like, hey, there's a guy saying things about socialists right now. Will you go talk to him? And he gets mad at you for it. It's you know, it's male loneliness problems. It's toxic masculinity.
To you have to build connections with other it's an active process to build friendships and relationships with other people. If you are not somebody who has a worthwhile reason for someone to be your friend, like if you're a bigot or whatever, people don't like you. They won't want to be around you.
Right.
It's not on other people to coddle you and be your friend. You have to put yourself out there.
But all these people are also concerned.
Wait, where are they getting that these people are bigots from? This says the worst feeling in the world is when you're taught to push through and bury your emotions all your life, and then to be laughed at or told to be a man when you finally open up emotionally. Like, they are repeating talking points about toxic masculinity. Yes, they are saying, like, hey, this is unfair. This sucks. Like, this is rough. I feel like this is good when people start talking about these things and they're coming to the realization that there's a lot of contradictions in the way that they think about masculinity, and the fact that they have to hold these things inside. But it's not just men that's doing these things, right? Women want men to do these things often enough. Women want men to be stoic. They want men to be unemotional, and they do look at men as though they are less masculine if they are emotional and if they do share their emotions. This is it's societally imposed. It's not just men imposing this on men, because if women didn't want anything to do with men because of these things, they would stop being social norms. Right? They would stop existing.
Conservatives, and so they surround themselves with conservative men who do not act in accordance with their desires to be emotionally heard. And it's like, yep, that's of course what's going to happen. They're toxic and right-wing. It's the problem with them.
Remove yourself from that.
I'm 21, never
had a girlfriend. There it is. See?
First thing, never had a girlfriend. Number one. I get my validation off of my sexual interactions or my romantic ones with women specifically. They are goals to be met. This is a problem, dude. The only
thing that keeps me from killing myself is drinking myself to death, because I don't have a girlfriend.
Yep. Also, capitalism. I see my friends maybe once or every 2 months. I've been living alone since I was 18. I work 10 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and sometimes I even go to work on Saturday, and I'm still broke. Wow. I wonder what conservative... Shouldn't you just get the grind set going and do conservative fucking... Get stoic, get a wife, get money, you gotta be a top lobster? Like, what? No, this is a condition of capitalism and the intersecting with toxic masculinity and the patriarchy. It just is.
But I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, he's acknowledging the problem now. So now he's acknowledging the problem. He's acknowledging that this is a problem with capitalism. This is a problem with the patriarchy. This is a problem with toxic masculinity. He's acknowledging this now. But just a minute ago, he's acting as though this is like an individualistic thing. It's self-imposed. You're just doing this to yourself, right? I don't understand. I don't understand how he keeps like flip-flopping from one thing to another over and over.
And every fucking time they mention this. Every time. Let's see who else. By the way, all of these ads blocked out. Wonder why. I'm usually ignored by the people close to me. I feel devalue. No one cares what I have to say. It always feels like people treat me like...
I don't know why he's saying all of the ads are blocked out. Like, I don't know
I'm
why
an
he's saying
idiot.
this.
I don't use social media or dating apps or anything because it's horrid. The few friends I have either don't want to hang out or can't, mainly because one is in the military. I've honestly lost all care. I don't want to go to college. I work at a crappy job. I work out at the gym because it makes the anger go away. Like,
the only outlet you're putting your emotions is I go to the gym and do angry lifts because I'm angry. And it's like, have
Yes, but these are like, yes, this is a stupid way of thinking. This is what you get from people like Andrew Tate. This is what you get from people like Sneeko. This is what you get from those people. But those people are actually validating these men in some way. They're actually telling them like, yes, we understand that you have these problems. And then they're giving them some bullcrap solution. Whereas you're not even like, you're making some convoluted thing where like, yes, you have the problems, but you're making the problem on yourself. And also capitalism is putting the problem on yourself. And then toxic masculinity is putting the problem on yourself, but you're also completely doing it to yourself, and it's completely self-imposed as well.
Have you considered therapy, maybe? Have you considered...
Yes, these are like, yes, I think that this is like a good recommendation. I think that we should probably be recommending therapy to these people. But if you're not going to actually engage with these problems in any sort of real way, if you're not going to acknowledge them in a way to where these people actually feel like they're being heard and they actually feel like you understand what it is that they're talking about, because if you don't sound like that, you're not going to sound like you can give any sort of real solutions to it. But yeah, if you're able to engage with these things in a real way, maybe you can give better solutions. Maybe you can give a better way of interacting with this stuff. I do. But I'm, you know, a lowly, what do we got? 60, 70, 60 people watching right now. Like, I am one streamer. I would like it if other people engaged in this stuff as well. Obviously, like we've talked about, Vaush and Destiny and a ton of other people have been talking about this crap more and more, but I feel like what Shoe is doing is what I would want people to do. I think this is what I would want people to do, is talk about it, validate these problems, validate the fact that they do have these issues, and then, yeah, hopefully, like, if they are pulled into more of a lefty sphere or a middle of the road sphere, away from radicals like Sneeko and Andrew Tate, then they can start to hear real solutions.
Consider talking about your emotions to another person? Have you tried that at all?
The few friends I have don't want to hang out. Yeah, I mean, like, do you put energy
and then it's
into
like,
your relationships?
One is in the military, your friends don't want to hang out, then fuck them. Find new people who want to hang out with you.
It's it's crazy, dude.
They were being...
Listen to YouTube videos while playing video games is a great way.
But Tom women's issues are completely ignored. Oh, wait. Well, I mean, look, part of the problem is that, like, when we're talking about people like Andrew Tate and Sneeko, part of the problem is that a lot of their messaging is completely anti-feminism. It is hardcore anti-feminism, right? So when feminists are being attacked by these people, they're obviously going to feel defensive against them, and they're not going to want to validate those sorts of people. They're not going to want to engage with them or try to help them in any good faith manner, because these are the people who are attacking them nonstop and belittling them all the time and acting like women's problems aren't real. And so they're not going to turn around and validate men at the same time. So I'm saying I understand where that comes from. I understand why these people are defensive in this way. But I don't think you can be a feminist and understand systemic issues that are going to affect people and then deny what's happening to men and the systemic issues that are oppressing them today. Like, I think that you have to have a massive amount of cognitive dissonance to understand things like systemic racism, like, class issues, like, feminism, patriarchy, all of this crap. How can you understand systemic structures in any manner and then deny this? How can that possibly be the case?
Way to ignore your loneliness. Don't think it's sustainable, though.
Dude,
it's you're wallowing. This is a boy.
You're wallowing.
It's wallflowering at the dance, hoping that a girl asks you to dance and saving you.
But they are feminists, not meninists. They can't care for men, right? Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Look, the feminist movement would have done absolutely nothing if men were not on board with feminism, right? Like, obviously, you need allies. You need other people on board with your movement in order for it to actually get anything done, especially if a patriarchy exists and men are holding all of the positions of power. How do you actually get any of that power if some of those people who are in those positions of power are not willing to give you some? If they're not willing to make concessions, if they're not willing to allow women the right to vote, or, you know, the ability to drive, or, you know, all sorts of things. Like, obviously men had to be on board in order for feminism to happen. So just because they're feminists doesn't mean that they're not capable of being in favor of men's issues as well. Men need women to be on board with these things. Men need women to help as well. Men need women to understand their struggle and take part in the movement.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the same vibes as a girl will come along and save my little sad boy life. This is like, it's self-imposed.
I spend most of my day playing video games and listening to YouTube videos, but I wouldn't describe myself as fucking lonely.
Me either.
Because I enjoy my own company. And the idea that you can't be good enough for yourself is also an issue here.
Yeah, this is just an extremely privileged take. I mean, in order for you to be capable of enjoying your own company, you have to know that you have the option of enjoying somebody else's company. If you are forced to enjoy your own company against your own will, you just don't have the option. There's really nobody else for you to hang out with. There's nobody else for you to spend time with. You are forced to spend time by yourself. Yeah, that's when it's loneliness. That's when it's like, yes, I spend a lot of time alone. I enjoy my own company. I enjoy being around myself. But that's because I know that I can go out anytime I want, call a friend, call one of my siblings, call a girl, call somebody, and they'll pick up and we'll be able to go hang out. But I have options, and I understand that I am extremely privileged in that manner, or in that way, to where somebody who doesn't have the same privileges is gonna look at that situation very differently than I do. When they're alone, they're gonna think of it very differently than somebody who is choosing to be alone.
Well, and then you socialize, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it needs, these guys are blaming the wrong thing. Being a man is listening to everyone's problems and not being able to express your own. Not my experience as a man, for the record. We are all in this shit.
So, real quick, I haven't seen them blame anything. So far, I have not seen them blame anything. All I've seen them do is point out contradictions in what society expects of them. Like, I have not seen them blame anything or say, this is the problem, this is the issue, this is what's making this happen to me. They are blaming being a man. Well, I mean, obviously that's part of it, but that's not the end of it. It's not just like, I'm a man, so that's all, right?
More than anyone else.
Men are always bitching. Men fucking constantly complain because lots of things are fucked up, but men are the ones that bitch all the time about stuff. What are you talking about? I've never been in a situation where men haven't been around me talking about, like, this thing's fucked up or that thing's fucked up. I have opinions or a take about this or that. When have you ever met a man that didn't have takes? Like, we are all in this shit, yet somehow it's us versus them. Us versus who? Men are the okay, look. It's men collectively are society's problem. We, as individual men, can choose to stop being party to that. But when we talk about it, you just continue to do your conservative bullshit, which expressly says you have to do this shit. Right? Anytime the left brings up any kind of, like, the notion of a safe space includes men, for the record. Like, you can have safety in camaraderie. You can have so much, like, men can have positive spaces, but it's just like, it has to be fostered, and they have no fucking tools for this because they reject the notion of, like, equality and intersection and
well, here's the problem, though.
I don't know that that's actually the case. I understand that is fairly common. Again, when we're talking about people like Andrew Tate followers and Sneeko followers, that's obviously going to be insanely common. But we have tons of guys in this community who call in, who were lonely, who are lonely, who struggle with these same issues, but they're in here with all of the trans people, all of the women. They're in the discords with all of these people. They're progressive people who still have the same struggles and have the same issues. These are normally problems that are happening from like a very early age. These are like, they're getting into video games at a really early age. They're getting onto online communities at a really early age. Boys are socialized very differently today than they were back in the day. They'll join Discord communities, Reddit communities, 4chan communities, all of this crap, right? And they're not learning social skills. They're not learning the basics like everybody else, or like they're supposed to be at those ages. And then by the time they turn around and realize, like, oh, freaking crap, all of my friends are on Xbox Live and on Discord, and I don't actually know how to engage with a real girl. I don't know how to read facial expressions. I don't know how to engage with body language or any of this crap. It's a little late. You're pretty far behind now. You are stunted in your growth, and women are not getting into these communities at the same rates. Women are taught very differently. This isn't a good thing, but women are taught like how men look at them in very young ages. They're taught how to be looked at, how to smile at everybody, how to look, how to pose, how to take pictures. Like, they're taught very early on how everybody else looks at them and how to influence the people that are in front of them. Boys are not taught this at all. They're not taught any of this stuff. So by the time it's actually like these kids are figuring out, oh shit, I'm way behind everybody else, they're so far behind that they're not able to catch up. They're already awkward. They're already so awkward that it's going to be hard for them to just start engaging with women and start engaging and making real friends, because everybody else thinks they're freaking weird now. Everybody else doesn't want to hang out with them now. These are real systemic issues that affect men at very early ages and are causing more and more problems. It's not, obviously, capitalism has a lot to do with this. Obviously, toxic masculinity has a lot to do with this. There's a lot of problems here. But when they go looking for answers, it's people like Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, Sneeko, Fresh and Fit. Like, these are the people who are standing there with their arms open saying, yes, we know you have problems. We know you have these issues. We have answers for you. And then we got Jake saying, well, you did it to yourself, bro. I grew up online as a gamer, as a woman, and I don't have these issues. Interesting. You realize it's different for women, though, right? You realize that it is definitely different for women. Like, the way that I think it's always going to be easier for women to find companionship than it is for men. Zonia Raid. Let's go. Appreciate the raid, Zonia. Why is that? Well, one, women are sought after by men, like, in a completely different way than men are sought after by women. Men are much more likely to find, like, way more women. Men find way more women attractive than women find men attractive. And women also have, like, much stronger bonds with their friends. They actually have intimate connections with these people. They're not just like if I go sit in a Discord with somebody and play video games with them for a couple of weeks, I'll start calling that person my friend. Girls aren't generally going to do that because they actually share intimate information with one another, and guys don't. They don't have that, like, they don't share intimacy with one another. That's not how they grow bonds with one another. Excuse me. Oh, so we're literally seen as things to chase. Do you think that's fun to experience every day? I don't, of course not. That's a completely different question as to whether or not you're going to have the same struggles as a guy just by having the same experiences as him at an early age. Like, you can say, that's bad, that's fine. That still doesn't change the reality that, yes, women are not going to experience these issues at the same rates as men. We have stronger bonds because we were forced to do that. But I still also have Discord friends. Guys not sharing that info is on them. So you don't believe in, like, systemic issues. You don't believe in, like, toxic masculinity. You don't believe in patriarchy. You don't believe in any of that stuff then, right? Because I would say that these things are enforced by society on them, and that they're socialized to be this way. I do believe in systemic issues, but how do you counter it? Like what I'm talking about. You have to actually acknowledge that the issues exist in the first place, and then you have your own issues. You have your own answers for these things, instead of everybody who acknowledges that it exists being the people who are saying, well, you just need to work out more and buy a Bugatti. Like, instead of those people being the only freaking people who actually acknowledge the issues, there can be a ton of other people who acknowledge the problems and then say, but you know what? Like, there's actual systems that are responsible for this. And you don't have to blame women. You don't have to talk about why, you know, it's just a bunch of sluts and whores and it's their fault that you're not getting the companionship that you're looking for. You can say, yeah, actually, there's like systemic structures that are causing these problems in the first place. We do, but the answers I hear are always to coddle men rather than tell them to acknowledge patriarchy exists. I mean, obviously, people are going to be averse to certain types of words, like patriarchy. You don't necessarily have to use the word patriarchy all the time. I try to avoid it as much as possible while also describing patriarchy at the same exact time. But yeah, like, that's just part of fixing problems, is appealing to the people who are not going to be on your side in the first place. Because if they're already on your side, they already agree with you. I'm willing to come on and talk about this. Okay. Are you the other person on here? I think I have a Discord link in the description if you want to jump in the waiting room. Hello. You're on mute.
There we go.
There you go. How are you?
Good. I just found out about this because of your moderator or whatever coming in to take stream. So I popped in and then noticed.
Okay.
So, I mean, like, what exactly is your issue with the way that we are addressing this, I guess?
I think that it's like, it is wholly reductive to continuously, and this isn't just Jake, this is a problem with the online left consistently, where they're saying that men are responsible for their own problems. It almost sounds like this hyper individualistic view of, like, you did this to yourself, so fix it yourself. And I don't think that fixes anything.
So, I mean, the video is like 2 fucking hours long, and we talk a lot about this, but it's not that. Like, that's not the take that we have. It's It's so much more complicated than that. So, are you a leftist?
I wouldn't call myself a leftist, no.
Okay. Like, what are your feelings on things like any other sort of systemic oppression and how we counter it? Like, is that a thing that you
I mean, I
worry
think
about? Like
different.
homophobia, racism, stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think different things are going to have different fixes to them. Like, I guess I assume you're looking for an answer of like, you know, capitalism is the problem, and getting rid of capitalism would start to fix those issues. But
capitalism is a contributor, but it is not 100% of the problem with these things. Like, you could get rid of capitalism, you know, still have patriarchy. So, like, you have to address the root of where sexism comes from, right? So, the issue here is that, okay, so if we acknowledge that toxic masculinity exists and that men are literally, like, brought up into a culture where they're told to deny their emotions and to not have deep connections with their friends, and they don't, like, systemically have to band together for survival, like, I think women have stronger bonds because we often have to be allies for one another when you're facing something like patriarchy, right? So, like, men don't have that, and the things that they usually unite under are, like, other axes of systemic oppression, whether it be racism, homophobia, whatever, and so you'll see subgroups of men. But men as a whole are not banding together to fix this. So, like, I just don't understand what is the application here. If we want men to stop being sexist, what is the action we take? Because women can't do it for men, but you also can't, like, have other men just make other men not be sexist. Like, even if somebody talks them out of that, they still have to do the work to be like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't think that way, you know?
yeah, I think that most people, regardless of who you are, if you have a problem that you're struggling with, you're looking for something to blame. I think everybody is like this. Everyone, you know, wants some sort of bad guy to look at and say, that's my problem. That's what's causing all of my issues. And I think that you can still give that to people while talking about systems and talking about oppression and talking about how, like, you know, like especially these people, lots of them hate feminism. They hate like the idea of feminism, and you can say like exactly how feminists felt and women felt for a while. Like, similar things are happening to you through systemic structures and social norms that are causing your problems, and there are ways to fix this. I think, like, generally I engage with lots of like far right communities where most of the time we're trying to engage with them in a way to where they're actually capable of fitting in somewhere else,
Yeah.
and
like,
finding
I
like new
don't hate
communities.
that. I don't hate this idea of de-radicalizing people, but the problem is that you can't expect women to be the ones to do it, right?
I don't
So, like,
expect women to be the ones to do it, but you also can't do it without women. Just as if women are having issues and they're saying, hey, like, we have this thing called feminism where we want equality, they can't do that without men. Like, it's not a man or woman thing. It's a societal thing.
I think you're misunderstanding me. I mean, whenever we're saying that, like, okay, we want to de-radicalize extremist people. So, as a person who has attempted this, because I really like to argue on the internet, every time I've tried to interact with the incel community, even down to a sympathetic level, where it's like, hey, I promise you that you're not unfuckable, you don't have to worry about your height or your face, like, you look like a normal dude, I'm sure that you would have no problem dating, like, I tried this a long, long time ago on incel forums and shit on Reddit, and all they ever did was just respond with sexism off the bat, because they can't even get past their initial bigotry to, like, listen to you be reasonable. So at a certain point, I think it's totally normal for, like, a marginalized group to just tap the fuck out whenever what they're facing are just people who won't even listen in the first place.
Sure, but I'm more so talking about, like, when we're talking about these issues, the things that we should be advocating for are changes to the social norms. And it's obviously on an individual basis, like, we're going to want to, like, yeah, de-radicalize the way that I was talking about by making people feel accepted somewhere. But when again, the way that I'm listening to this, it just sounds like the opposite. Like everything that I've heard so far, there's parts where he's saying it's toxic masculinity, moments after saying it's your fault and you're doing this to yourself. And I don't know how you can take both of those positions.
Systems are made up of people, and a systemic thing like toxic masculinity gets perpetuated by individuals, right? And that can be women too. Like, I think, like, you know, just Pearly Things is a great example. But, like, so how do we change that? It takes a bunch of different individuals trying to make a change to make a difference. Like, I don't understand when we say that something is systemic. It's like we can write off, like, no one can ever give me an actual example of, like, what we have to do to appeal to people or what we do to help or whatever. It's like, I don't know what the solution is at that point.
I mean, I think it's going to be the same just like it was with feminism or like it is with systemic racism. Like, the biggest part is just actually getting people to acknowledge the problem exists in the first place and what the root of that problem is. So if you're actually educating people and teaching them like where these lonely men are coming from and what's causing them to be this way, I think that that's like the biggest hurdle normally in the beginning, is actually getting people to understand the problem in the first place.
Yeah, but like, what do you do when you say that and you're like, hey, it's toxic masculinity, it hurts you and all that shit, and then they just outright reject you and continue doubling down on the sexism? Can we then say that individual is choosing not to change in the face of information and be a better person?
Yeah, sure, maybe, but I don't think as content creators we're engaging with individuals. Normally we're like speaking to groups of people and hoping that one person in that group is going to hear it. But it's, again, I think it's more about, because like my audience, they are also going to hear these things. They're going to have the tools to actually say the same things somewhere else and talk to other people. And this is how like people learn, and this is how information spreads. And I think that there are like I've seen it so many times with a ton of, I don't really get on Twitter, but I see a ton of other content creators talking about all of the people on Twitter saying like, well, no, this is men's fault. Men have to deal with it. They're the ones who are doing this to themselves. Like, they're,
because
you know,
like as a group, men do have to be the ones responsible for undoing toxic masculinity. Like, yeah, women
but that
can
doesn't
do
make
so
sense.
much, but like generationally, you have to teach men younger than you to not be a little sexist asshole. Like, you have to do that. You have to deprogram. The problem is that patriarchy is so rooted in our culture, like down to things that people would think are just like fucking not even an issue. Like, think about how when you get married, you still take a man's last name usually. Like, that's a sign of patriarchy, but people think that's like benign, right? It's so ingrained that when you try to bring it up, and I guarantee you there are going to be people in your comment section being like, that's fucking, this bitch is crazy. I can already see
I don't disagree that that's because people think that they have to do that, that would be toxic masculinity. But I think giving people the option to where they don't feel like they have to do that is the way out of that. It's not that you tell them you don't take the last name, but it's that you say, hey, you have the option to not do that. Just as a woman who wants to stay home and take care of her kids, she's not reinforcing toxic masculinity by doing that. But as long as she knows that she has the option to not do that, then we're actually finding a way out.
Yeah, but the problem is a lot of people don't have those options or don't feel like they have those options because the way our culture just keeps perpetuating the same shit. Like, it takes a lot to change.
That's why I'm saying that it's about like actually educating, like spreading the message, like actually making sure that people understand what it is we're talking about in the first place, so that they actually like, that's just kind of like the biggest part of getting rid of a lot of these things. And we don't have to say toxic masculinity in order to do it. We can just talk about specific examples and specific instances.
Talking about the issues, how are we ever supposed to educate people if you're too scared to use the terminology?
I don't think that the terminology makes any difference whatsoever. I think that it's just a buzzword.
The coddling of it is why you have the kind of people in your chat right now that are saying, I'm going to die alone at 40 with multiple cats in my house. Because, you know, male loneliness is the thing we need to take care of. But when we make fun of women's loneliness, it's that you're a lonely cat lady, yada, 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 yada.
Yeah. Toxic masculinity, though, is so, like, all-encompassing that it's not helpful to even use the word anymore. Like, talking about specific things, like talking about the way that men are raised, talking about the way that they have relationships, because just saying toxic masculinity doesn't specify those things. Saying toxic masculinity can be guys like...
what toxic masculinity is.
Yes, but again, when you educate them on that, you're educating them on something that is almost all-encompassing. Like, you just saying toxic masculinity says so much that it's...
I'm not saying you just say the word toxic masculinity. You have to break it down for somebody who's never heard of it. Like, I've never said, don't break down the concept for people. But, like, again, this is a thing where, like, I just don't think that like marginalized people are responsible for facing the people that hate them to try to educate them on these issues. It's on the people who can get through to them, which is usually like other men or white people or straight people, you know, like the majority group.
I mean, sure, I don't disagree with that, but then I also don't think that gives anybody else a pass to like say horrible things or ridiculous things on the other end.
What do you mean by say ridiculous things or horrible things?
I mean, again, going back to the things that I was listening to Jake say, you're not wrong by saying that like individuals make up a system, but that's just such a reductive statement that like, yes, of course that's true, but we wouldn't say like, you know, hey, black people, like maybe just stop committing crimes, like that'll really help you a lot because individuals have to take personal responsibility. I feel like it is. I feel like that is pretty similar to what it is that he's saying.
So we have to address the culture, but we also, like, we currently have sexists in our fucking, like, world that we have to deal with. So you also have to address those people.
Yeah.
And they have to do the work to stop being sexist.
I don't disagree with that, but that doesn't... I believe in systemic racism. Systemic racism is imposed on black people, and the scenarios that they're stuck in currently are imposed on black people. White people have to make a lot of decisions to actually help black people. That's true. But black people also have to make decisions for themselves to take advantage of opportunities and do the work themselves as well. It's not just one or the other. There has to be both. But if I just sit here telling black people over and over that it's self-imposed, that's not going to be helpful in any way.
Okay, but you're telling... Okay, you can't compare men as a group to a marginalized class as a group because it's not the same power dynamic.
I'm not saying that it's the same power dynamic. The example that I'm giving has nothing to do with the power dynamic. It has to do with how you fix it.
Here's the equivalent. Instead, it's not like saying black people stop committing crime. It's like saying white people stop being fucking racist. That's what it is the equivalent to.
Okay, sure, that's just as reductive, but either way, like, yeah, it's...
Do you not think that it is on white people to undo their racism and to not be racist towards other people?
I think saying white people stop being racist is as helpful as don't do bad things and do good things instead.
Okay, this is just me saying a summary of the argument, but then what you would go into as a white person... You should be educating other white people on what they are doing that is racist.
I agree with this, and this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying that, like, so if we're actually getting into what affects young men...
This is what we mean when we say men are responsible for undoing this.
Yes, but again, like, actually saying, like, hey, this is self-imposed, you just gotta, like... fix it isn't actually doing that. Like actually talking about what causes these issues, what actually like makes them end up where they are.
All the time.
Okay, it's possible that you guys talk about it all the time, but I feel like it's undone as soon as you turn around and say this is all self-imposed and you're doing this to yourself.
We don't even just say it's self-imposed. What is self-imposed is the like... We also say that loneliness, as it can be observed, is not a gendered issue. Like, we can see that, especially because of the pandemic, women are also lonely, but there's not like articles coming out about how women's loneliness is an epidemic that we need to face. In fact, we're seeing that single unmarried women are actually happier.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Women are happier alone. So it's obviously it's not going to be an epidemic.
So, well, why do you think women are happier alone?
Because I think women are more likely choosing to be alone. I think that I think that women are capable of like going outside and finding somebody.
Why do you think women are choosing to be alone?
I think that technology is like making it to where more and more people are able to find happiness by without being with somebody else all the time. But I don't think that if all you've ever known is loneliness, that you're ever making that choice. It's just kind of forced upon you. And I think that that's rare for women.
First of all, not all women are... I think you mistake being objectified by men as having desirable options, and that's not the case. Just because
I'm not saying all women, but I am saying it's going... I'm not saying all women, but I am saying it's going to be more often... It's going... Like, yes, it's going to be more often that women have options than men have options. That if women are lonely, it's more likely they're going to be capable of going and finding friends.
It's not an option if the guy just sees you as a sex object. You can be lonely while in a relationship. Like, you can be lonely while being pursued.
I think that men would still find some solace in having the, you know, the types of male companionship that we're talking about that doesn't have all of the intimacy attached. I think that they would still find a lot of solace in having somebody else with them and being able to have somebody like keep them company.
Could you... Sorry, I'm a little lost on that. You're saying that you think men aren't talking at all about, like, a sexual relationship when they talk about
I'm saying that, okay, so earlier we were talking about the fact that women are more likely to have intimate relationships where they, like, actually share intimate information with one another. And I'm saying that even though men, when they have their relationships with one another, even though that it doesn't have intimacy, they're still, I think that they would still feel a lot less lonely if they just had other men to bond with in some way, even if it's not in an intimate way.
Okay, so, like, again, that's another thing where, like, that's on men to befriend other men, right? Like, I just don't understand if there's a bunch of men who are lonely, then, like, make friends?
I don't...
We have a more interconnected society than ever before. It is so easy to, like, get in touch with people, find people who are interested in the things that you're interested in, like... You don't even have to be some, like, super rizzy person. You can, like, if you don't have social skills, if you're socially awkward, you can still find communities of people like you to get along with.
That's true, but people are not people are not actually feeling less lonely by engaging with people online. They're not feeling less lonely by sitting, like, in a Discord with people. They want human-to-human interaction. And lots of times, like, we're talking about, like, even the example that I'm giving, where men are not having intimate connections with one another. A lot of times, the only way that they find those intimate connections is if they have a girlfriend or a friend that's a girl or a sister. We already agree on those parts. But when when we turn around and say, when you turn around and say, so just find friends, you're still saying just do good things.
But nobody can go out and find friends for you. Like, if you're trying to materially affect someone's life right now, the best thing you can do is try to give them advice for, like, here's ways to meet people, or here's how to talk to people, or whatever.
Yes,
like,
I agree with that.
Okay, so this is a thing that we also talk about.
I mean, those are things that, like, Andrew Tate and Sneeko and them actually have.
Andrew Tate says, fuck you, your depression's not real, man up and go to the gym, you pussy. That's not support. Like,
well,
I'm tired of this idea that manosphere guys offer some sort of intimate support for men. It's not. It's telling men, you're perfect, as you are toxic, just be an asshole. And it appeals to those kinds of people.
Sure, but they're actually finding like friendships through these groups. They're finding other people like them. They're going to the gym and finding other people like them. They are actually
they
finding friendships because
it's a toxic masculine space. Are they sharing intimate details with each other in these spaces? I highly doubt it.
I don't think so, and that's what I was talking about earlier. That
it's like a shallow relationship.
It is, but those are going to exist even for people who aren't going to Andrew Tate and Sneeko. Like, guys are all over the place are experiencing relationships like that. So that's not special for them.
Okay, so as a whole,
what is special for them is the fact that they didn't have those relationships in the first place.
I don't know what... Okay. If the answer is that men aren't having close enough intimate relationships with one another, what am I, as a woman, supposed to do to fix that?
I mean, as a woman, nothing. As a human who exists within society, you're like advocate for the changes that we're talking about, like actually educating people to where children having computers in their room is a big problem, to where like that's where they're going to spend a lot of their time, getting into video games at an early age to where they spend a large majority of their time sitting in front of a computer or in front of a console instead of going outside and interacting with other people, getting into sports, getting into clubs. These are things that are like struggling and have a lot less people in them today because lots of people are finding those communities through the internet instead.
It just sounds like you're trying to, like, I sort of agree with this, but this is more of a parenting thing where you like need to make sure that your child is getting a healthy amount of social interaction. But like, I feel like this is fighting an inevitable battle because of technology. Like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? Because it's taken over everything. All the kids are on TikTok now. Like, everyone. But young girls are also participating more and more in video games and online spaces and not going outside and doing like these activities. It's happening to both genders because these kids are growing up with phones at like fucking 9.
Yeah, but you're asking, like, what is it? Again, yes, there are men who are lonely today. I don't know that there's a lot that we can do for them. But to make sure that there's not more and more of them in the future, I think that what's important is to actually address the systemic structures that are causing this to happen in the first place. And that's, yeah, like educating people on how to deal with these sorts of things. When I mentioned the first thing, you said this sounds like a parenting issue. And I agree with you. These are like widely parenting issues.
Do you also agree that because we're always going, like, we still have lonely or sexist men or whatever, like, we have all these issues we have to deal with, is it okay for women and feminists to talk about that from a feminist perspective at all? Or is talking about it going to alienate people so you can't talk about it?
I think it's fine to talk about it from a feminist perspective. Yes, of course.
So then, like, I just don't understand the issue, because that's usually what this is about. It's like, oh, look at these feminists. They're bad optics. They're the reason why, like, people hate women and people hate feminists because they're just, like, a bad look. So then, like, what are you supposed to do about that?
I mean, a lot of feminism was actually empowering women and make them realize that they were capable of doing the things that like we were giving them opportunities to do, right? It was like making sure that they had representation in certain positions so that they saw somebody else and said, oh wow, I could actually do that if I wanted to, right? I think that when we're talking about like, crap, hold on one second, I'm sorry. Okay. When we're talking about like men, damn it, now I lost where I was. What was your question again?
Okay. I think a lot of people in chat seem to have the misconception that I'm some sort of rad femme, or that we take like a rad femme thing. And I think we're hot take, but I think you're always going to have a sort of
sensitivity
from any sort of oppressed community whenever you're dealing with like systemic oppression, that you're gonna see people kind of rage out against it, whether that be like anti-white people jokes or fucking making fun of the straights or having your like oh my god men shit. And to me, I've always gone with the rule of like if it doesn't apply, let it fly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if somebody is on Twitter and they're like, oh, white people blah 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 blah, and I know it doesn't apply to me, I just don't get upset by it. Because obviously it's not about me.
Sure. I don't think anybody's upset about these things. I think that, so like somebody like Shoe0nhead is just like, she's making entertainment, right? She's not actually out here trying to make real changes.
She has, no. I'm sorry, but she has fucking millions of people that watch her. She gets so much attention. She, as a public figure, with the amount of fucking numbers she pulls in, and since she talks about politics and she's branded her content on politics, it's actually fucking irresponsible for the way that she just pretends like this is entertainment. Because I got harassment from this video. That's why we responded to this. It wasn't very fucking entertaining for her to leave my handle, my Twitter handle, uncensored in the video so I could get fucking harassed by people coming to me to tell me to kill myself.
That's why you guys kept mentioning whether or not the handles were blacked out. Okay.
Yes, she blacked out some of the handles. It wasn't mine.
She's talked about this before too. People are sending her a lot of these things, and a lot of times they're blacking out the names when they send them to her. But if they don't black out the names, she doesn't black out the names, and she just posts them. And
we used to be mutuals. Me and June used to speak to one another. Like she knows who I am, so I know that if she saw that fucking screen cap, she knows who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
And you think because she knew who you were, she should have blacked out? Or?
I think she has responsibility, yes. As a very large creator who knows that there's fucking going to be people who get pissed off by her stuff. Like, she knows her audience. I feel like she's either doing it on purpose or it's irresponsible and she should fucking pay attention.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that I want to get into that. I generally take the position that we're like tweeting because we want the attention and that we want the interaction, and
I don't want people coming to. Okay, she took one of my tweets in a thread out of context. So it's really fucking cool whenever I have a whole thread talking about like a huge nuanced breakdown on this thing. She takes one fucking tweet and pretends like that's my entire position, right? And then I have people come to me and say, oh, you fucking man-hating rad femme bullshit. And then whenever I tell them my opinions, they go, well, I had a couple people go like, oh, never mind. You know? Like, I think that's kind of shitty to misrepresent somebody.
Yeah, sure. I haven't seen this, so I if she misrepresented you, yeah, that sucks. But when I'm saying that she's doing entertainment, I'm saying that like she's like picking out crazy tweets and just saying like, hey, these people are saying crazy things. And I think that generally, even though you're in there and you don't feel like you should have been thrown in there, it's good to stigmatize people with crazy takes on the internet, makes it less likely.
No. What she is doing is taking a bunch of tweets that are mostly like 5-10 like tweets, a couple of fucking like very out there tweets, and then she basically uses that in a way to represent like, this is feminism. This is the same shit they did for Gamergate, the anti-SJW stuff. It's why they use the same like 3 women in every thumbnail, right? That's like the stand-in for an SJW. So it's literally just like taking these people and going, look, these are representative of this group. Even if you don't say it outright, you're creating a culture that now believes that this is what feminism is or whatever.
you're not wrong that she does that, but I remember Vaush doing the same thing with like hundreds of thousands of likes with very similar takes. So while I don't disagree that she's doing this, my point is that I think that generally taking bad takes and stigmatizing them isn't a bad thing. I don't think that that's something that's like doing harm. Now, if they're taken out of context and that's not
yes,
if it's misrepresented, that's a different that's obviously a different scenario. But I don't know if she's actually taking it and applying it to all of feminism, but the fact that these ideas exist on the left and that they should be pushed out, I'm totally down with that.
Literally mocked the idea of using the word patriarchy, like making it into a little fucking gremlin. She had that bit for years. At what point do we say that she has some responsibility in the culture of like influencing where people's thought process goes politically?
I think that she has a responsibility for her audience, for sure, and the way that she engages with them. Well, I'm not saying even if it's just entertainment, you still have a responsibility. I don't think it's one or the other. I think that even if it is just entertainment, you still have a responsibility. Like J-Reg is an entertainer. He has a responsibility for the way that people view him and whether or not they're taking the things that he says seriously, right? But that doesn't mean like I do think that the word patriarchy or toxic masculinity, I think that these things are used as these all-encompassing words that just lose meaning. And they
have meaning. The problem is that we don't. You use them. A bunch of anti-SJW people jump on it and go. They make fun of those terms. They turn it into a meme, and now everyone's gonna shut their brain off the minute they hear the term.
Yes, but that's kind of the point. Like, I don't have a problem with toxic masculinity. I don't have a problem with patriarchy. Like, I'm happy using these words, but I don't think it's as effective. The last time I heard them used this much was Jake, when he was talking to somebody named Beckett, where every single time he spoke, he used the words toxic masculinity and patriarchy instead of talking about the specific things. It wasn't about using those terms.
And no, did you listen to the whole fucking thing? Because I was in that one as well. It was in the last hour, and we were breaking down exactly what entailed a patriarchy. Dude argued with me that the patriarchy doesn't exist. So then we went point by point about what are patriarchal systems that have existed all throughout history to this current day, and how those are patriarchal. We went through that, and he still was rejecting that patriarchy exists.
Hold on. I listened to you. You were talking about things in a very different way than Jake was. You were talking about things in a very, very different way than he was, where you were actually getting into like specific examples in talking about, you were able to give more detail and more nuance and more information than he was. Whereas Beckett over and over is like pushing back against this idea, and Jake is not getting into more detail at any point. He's just coming back with the words patriarchy and toxic masculinity and capitalism every single time.
I feel like he had specific examples, but I don't remember the video word for word. So if that's how it came off, then I don't know. Maybe it's because of like feminism is kind of the thing I talk about the most. So I'm probably, and it's why he asks me to talk about these issues in his videos with him, because he wants my perspective to be represented as a woman rather than just being a dude who talks about it. So like, I don't know, maybe his communication is lacking on that point, but I feel like he's usually pretty good on, like, he knows what is going on. He understands that toxic masculinity and patriarchy are there, but like, even with Beckett, after I get in there and I break down specific examples, he still refused to acknowledge it and wanted to just be a class reductionist the whole time. Like, so if I give specific examples of patriarchy, it doesn't seem like that help.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a socialist, so I don't know how much. I explained, he didn't even know what a class reductionist was, and I had to tell him because I talked to him afterwards, and I was telling him. that that you guys were talking to him about class reductionism and he didn't even know. He's like, what does that even mean? I was like, oh boy.
He clearly was like, he told us that he had he just outright rejected even thinking about the concept of patriarchy or toxic masculinity or any of that because he had a bad interaction with a feminist once, and so then he just never interacted with these concepts again after that.
The conversation that I had with him made it sound like a lot of the examples that I'm bringing up of patriarchy, he felt like didn't ever exist in the UK where he's from, and
which is just
so
not true.
Well, hold on, you don't know the specific examples that I brought up, but I didn't know how to engage them because I have no clue what is true or what is not. But he made it sound like women held positions in parliament and women
which
had
is like a lot. It's so weird, and I don't know why but like he literally comes from like the matriarchal system. There's a reason why queens don't have the same like ruling authority as kings, or like they do. Technically, it's all fucked up. But they're even to this day, while the queen could be the person in charge, like they still see like lineage passes down through the firstborn son and shit. Like it's still based in male prioritization. Fuck, I can't even say that. Like you're still passing things down through the male line.
Sure. My point is that
so
like they
like
actually held positions that women didn't hold here. That was like, it's obviously going to have a very different dynamic if there's women who are actually capable of advocating on behalf of themselves there when they weren't capable of doing that here. And so I'm engaging with a very different system that I don't have enough information on. And so I wasn't able to have that conversation with him. But my point is that I have conversations about systemic racism all the time without ever using the word systemic racism. And I feel like I'm capable of convincing people of a lot of positions where maybe eventually you can tell them, hey, all of these things that you believe in are called systemic racism, but I don't actually see any value in that. I see no utility in like using these labels consistently when they're so encompassing.
Do you believe in like a gradation of speakers and content to appeal to people at different points of the political spectrum?
Of course, yes.
Okay. This is important. So we have people like Vaush, I would assume you probably are a little closer. Like people who are more on the I'm a little edgy or I'll appeal to the center or the right or whatever. And then that
I don't like the edgy stuff so much, but I understand his argument, but I think it's kind of dumb, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a fan, and like, it's so complicated, because de-radicalizing people is not an easy task, but I feel like you just can't constantly keep it on easy mode the whole time. I think there are going to be people who are good for appealing to these people early on in these stages. And
in this case, we're not even talking about de-radicalizing, though.
Later.
We're not even talking about de-radicalizing in this scenario, because right now we're talking about something that is so normalized that is all over, like, it is, these aren't extremes, they're not radical, they're everybody.
You just, like, can't dunk a normie into the deep end of, like, feminist talking points without them getting lost, and I understand that, which is why we should be easing them into it, and so we should have a gradient of like perspectives and people pushing people to the left, but I just don't want it to go the way of like we're too scared to keep pushing them further towards like not being afraid of a term like patriarchy or toxic masculinity. Like I just don't think you should be afraid of the terms.
I'm not afraid of the terms. I'm saying that I don't think the terms actually communicate anything in conversations where you're trying to convince people of positions, because there's a million positions under the label toxic masculinity. There's a million positions under the label, systemic racism. Like, it's those positions that you're going to convince people of. You convince them of the label, it doesn't actually do anything. So the labels are kind of useless in this case. They're only useful within the echo chambers where people already believe in these things. But outside of them, they're completely useless.
I mean, I don't think that... Do we actually have data that shows that saying these terms makes it less effective?
You already said that people turn off their brains when you talk to them about this stuff. You already acknowledged that that's the case.
Because everyone's contributing to the idea that it is cringe to do so. So, like, when
not
June
just that, but there's also bad representation on it.
Normal, and they go, it's super normal to just, like, make fun of these concepts, and yeah, no one's gonna take it seriously.
It's not just that. There's a lot of really bad representation that are using these labels too much to the point where they've kind of been tarnished. And so that doesn't mean that they have no utility anymore. They're just not, they're not good rhetorically when you're talking to people who don't already believe in them.
I mean, like I said, this is why we have a gradient of people to talk to people at different stages in this. And I think it's still fine to talk about patriarchy and shit without being afraid of it.
When I don't know, I didn't have a specific issue with anything that you said. I don't even think I responded to a single thing you said watching this video. Everything that came out of Jake's mouth, I had issues with, and I feel like this is only the second time that I've listened to him, and both times it's just like reducing everything so much that I think it's common that people are only communicating with people who already agree with them so much to where it's hard for them to actually understand somebody who doesn't believe the things that they believe. And it's hard for them to actually break down those concepts again in a way that somebody else could understand.
I think Jake just views it as like he just doesn't want to coddle men because everyone's like, let's treat men with kid gloves into this and ease them into this position. And we have to say, like, it's a little infuriating to have to be like, patriarchy is bad because it also hurts men. When the issue should, like, I feel like a man should have empathy without saying, I hate it because it hurts me, to go, I hate it because it hurts another group of people.
Just I don't know.
Like,
I don't know how useful that is. Like humans are weird freaking beings. Like I don't know.
So you're saying that we're like inherently born to not be able to empathize with one another? Like I feel like men should be able to go, patriarchy is bad because it hurts women and we don't want women to hurt. Like what?
No, I'm saying that I could grow up literally knowing nothing about feminism, and the first couple examples that I see of it are actually really bad examples of it that turn me against this entire concept and this idea, because this is the representation that I saw. And then everybody else from now on that I hear using this language, I'm automatically turned off to them. And then I might even turn around and start making compilation videos of them and start making fun of them online, because
but here's the problem. People like June contribute to this problem because what she does is she takes the fucking people who you think are bad representations, hands them a microphone or sets it up to say, look, feminism bad. Like, she literally just is like, this is feminism and it's bad. You should dislike it. And then they go, haha, and then they go watch another feminist-owned cringe compilation or whatever.
I don't know if she's actually saying feminism is bad, though. I don't, like, you're saying that, but I don't know if that's actually the case. I think that people are capable of...
She's always mocked feminism in her content.
She did a long time ago, but I've watched her live streams within the last year. She seems to talk as though she's, like, on board with feminism, and she has, like, people say that she hates LGBTQ people, but she has LGBTQ flags. Like, it's...
June's politics are, I want whatever's good for me, and I don't really think outside of that. Like, genuinely, that's how far she goes. She's fucking engaged to a Christian nationalist as a bisexual woman. That's a level of fucking self-destruction that I do not understand.
He's not a Christian nationalist, but...
He is a Christian nationalist.
I know him, eudaimonia. I know him well. I'm also mutuals with June. He's not a Christian nationalist, but he is, he's like a, I don't know how to explain it, like a moderate libertarian.
He's a conservative.
Okay.
Like, it's weird to reject that. I don't know. And he talks about, like, anti-trans stuff constantly. I don't know how you could get married to somebody who's fucking, like, talking about how trans people shouldn't be able to transition, and then be like, I'm an LGBTQ ally.
I don't. Both of them disagree with both of each other's politics. I have no idea how either one of them gets along with the other. Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea.
It's superficial to her. She doesn't actually care about trans rights. She'll fucking marry a guy who's a transphobe. Like, it doesn't affect her, so she doesn't care.
Okay. I want to be clear, I haven't actually seen him say transphobic things, so I'm not sure that's possible. I've heard that he says transphobic things before. You're not the first person to mention that, obviously, but I have not seen those examples myself.
So, I mean, like, that's why I find her disingenuous, and I don't... Like, she clearly even says, at the end of this video, she says, your argument, this is just entertainment, and I'm just doing this for money. She just straight up says that, and she says, I don't have a solution to male loneliness. So, like, what the fuck? Why are we talking about it, then?
Okay, so
she doesn't have a solution, she's just
this...
bringing it up to make money off of lonely men?
So you can make me look at this completely differently. So, like, you're saying, hey, look, like, I don't like June. She dicked me over in this video. She was, like, totally strawmanning me here. And we were just going to, like, roast June. Is that, like, am I coming at this from, like, an objective lens when you guys, like, that was not the purpose or the idea going into this at all?
Yeah, like, most of this was going into it specifically at June because we weren't even going to talk about this. Jake wasn't going to talk about this. I didn't know I was in the video. What happened was I was on Twitter one day, and I started getting a bunch of fucking psychos suddenly out of nowhere that I had to keep blocking because I was getting harassment. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then someone linked it, and then people were like, oh, Sarah's in the Shoe0nhead video. So I was like, oh, this makes sense. And so then we decided to cover it that night on stream.
Okay.
So that was the motivation behind this. Because we were like, well, what the fuck? We don't even know what's going to be in this video. So this was just our genuine reaction to what she tried to paint this as.
Okay. Because, yeah, I'm more so engaging with the arguments about men's issues. But if it's more so like we don't like June and we're here to disagree with June, then I still feel
other videos talking about men's issues and male loneliness and stuff like that. So, like, I don't know. I feel like if you want his take on that, those are probably better to watch than this.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay, because, yeah, I still feel like the same issue is going to be with, like, the rhetoric used and all of that, but I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to... If you actually watch me going over the first part of the video before you jumped in and, like, see, like, the parts that got me really frustrated with this, it's the ideas on men's issues. It's the way that they're engaged with, and obviously you guys are not the first people that, like, sorry, not you guys. Jake is not the first person to engage with it like this that I've seen, that I've engaged with, that I've watched, that I've reviewed. It seems to be consistent enough to where it's really obnoxious to me, but you guys are getting the same thing from the opposite side from June, and so
yeah, and I just want to say to your chat, guys, it's not that I'm like, don't interact with my public tweet, but I just don't think, can you literally say that harassment is on the same level of somebody, like, approaching you in genuine good faith to talk about something? Because I don't care if somebody wants to come to me and have a conversation about, like, feminism or whatever on Twitter. The problem was I was getting genuine fucking harassment.
Okay. Do you think you're getting harassed because of what you said or the way that she represented it?
Yes, because So, oh man, if I could, well, my Twitter got fucking suspended today. I can't even fucking pull it up. Do I have a picture? Fuck. I didn't even think about that. If I'm not even gonna be able to pull up the whole thread. Basically, TLDR. I was reacting to a mutual, Tori, who retweeted a picture of a tweet from a Taylor Swift fan account. I think I actually go into this. It was like a Taylor Swift fan account with like 5 followers or whatever that tweeted something that was like, I hate men or whatever. And then Tori said, accounts like this are why, like, misogyny happens. And I was like, that's fucking stupid. Would you blame, like, a trans person, like, being a little cringe on their 5-follower account for transphobia? 'Cause I wouldn't. I just think that's stupid. So that was the first part of the tweet. And then I was talking about the validity of how I think we should have spaces for, like, marginalized people to just talk about how it's really fucking frustrating to see, like, when you're trying to talk about a systemic issue and the class that is causing the systemic issue is like, for instance, the way I say, like, men have to be coddled. This is so hard to explain. Or, like, you have to relate it back to something that feels self-interested for them to care about it rather than just care about it because it affects another group. It's kind of like how dudes will be like, you should be feminist because you have a mother and a sister and a daughter. But, like, I don't think you need any of those things to be a feminist, you know, or to care about women in general. Like, you don't have to be related to a woman to care about women.
But that is how humans are. Like, I know that you want to say, like, can't we just be empathetic? But no, like, we can't. Like, I'm not going and opening up the newspaper and crying over all of the dead names that are in there every day, because I don't know those people. They don't mean anything to me. I don't feel empathy for them because I know nothing about them. Like, I need somebody around me, somebody who I actually care about before I care.
Even if a stranger told you, like, that you just met was like, oh, my mom died today, like, we feel compelled to offer sympathies. Because
yes, I might offer sympathies, but I wouldn't actually feel anything. I don't know that I would actually, like, care in any way, but I would offer sympathies just because that's what I'm supposed to do. But that's like, yes, this is how humans are. This is how we're wired. Like, we're tribal. We care about the people around us.
I feel like
it's not
so
cynical. It's just realistic.
You have to appeal to self-interest to get people to pay attention to causes that don't affect them.
I mean, I think it's part of evolution. Like, monkeys and apes are all very tribal as well. We all grew up in tribes. We all grew up in very small tribes that were all separate from one another. We always warred with one another and killed each other. And then now all of a sudden we're in these massive societies where we're all supposed to engage with one another and care about one another.
But we
and
also
it's very
grew
different.
up having to collaborate with other humans our entire existence because us having one another here so we could all do jobs to keep society running is beneficial for us. Like, it's not just that we're all fighting all the time. We have human cooperation more than we have human fighting.
It is, but systemic issues are very hard for people to actually engage with, right? Like, if I tell you, hey, if you go out and protest every day this summer, 2 years from now, you might actually see some change. That's really hard for people to actually consider and contemplate. Like, that's a really hard thing to engage with in any meaningful manner that makes sense to somebody.
I mean,
you have to, it's not tangible in any way.
To me, I hear that and I'm like, dope, I'm gonna fucking do that because I want things to change for the better.
Sure, and that's great, but most people obviously are not doing that. So you're well aware that that's not the case for by far the majority of people.
Well, I feel like we're getting to a point now, we're seeing more with the strikes going on right now, that I think class consciousness is pushing people to feel like they actually need to take action. So, I don't know. I have some hope for that. I think people are getting better. It's just like, I can't.
Yeah, but those people are like engaging on their own behalfs in those strikes. They're not.
Yeah, but we're seeing.
It's
We
not
didn't
altruistic.
I mean, no, there are people supporting the strikes to the point where, like, celebrities got bullied, like, what's her face, got bullied for doing her show during the strike. Not just by the people doing the picket line, but everybody harassing her and being like, hey, what the fuck, why are you crossing the picket line? You know?
Yeah.
So it's not just people, like, it wasn't just actors or writers.
Well, you're talking about people just, like, saying mean things on Twitter because that's stigmatized,
no,
but they're not going out there and actually protesting.
Actively criticizing someone and saying, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you crossing the picket line? Like, it's not in their self-interest. They're not writers. They're not on strike, but they care about it.
But that's how we actually get people to care about things, and that's how we actually get change to happen, is through stigma and incentivization. So, like, crossing picket lines is something that's already highly stigmatized and something that people think of in a very negative light, and so it's already something that they're capable of going out and saying, hey, you did something bad. Whereas, like, the stuff that we're talking about, it's part of the process to get these things to be stigmatized. It's part of the process to incentivize people to do the opposite of these things. Like,
I mean,
that's how it works.
I don't think we stigmatize, like, being sexist or being toxic, like...
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Letting it happen, you know?
Wait, no,
like,
that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying by letting it happen. I'm saying that, like, stigmatizing these things is part of the process. That is one aspect to the process where you stigmatize people.
How are you stigmatizing this behavior with your current audience right now? Because I'm seeing what they're saying.
By criticizing Jake and the way that he talks about it.
Okay, so how is Tom Bombadil over here becoming a better feminist?
Tom Bombadil will never be a better feminist. That's...
Oh, okay. So we admit that some people are just fucking unsavable?
Yeah, of course. Like, I don't think everybody's going to agree with me. I can't, like...
So we can say Tom Bombadil is at fault for his own fucking loneliness right now, right?
I guess.
Can I say that?
I guess it doesn't. I don't think that actually makes sense, but I think that Tom Bombadil is only going to change when he's incentivized to change. And
okay, what's his incentive to change? Tom, what would turn you into a feminist right now? What's the incentive that would make you care about women's rights? We're gonna go right to the source. Let's do it.
I think that as long as he's capable of going back to his, like, echo chamber, it doesn't matter what I say up here, that it, like, things like
I'm not seeing an answer.
Huh?
I'm not seeing an answer from him. So, like,
yeah, I know, because he doesn't actually, like, consider these things. So it's like with racism, right? We didn't start to be logical about racism. We just stigmatized it more and more to where even somebody like Nick Fuentes refuses to admit that he's racist because he knows that that's a bad thing to be. He refuses to admit he's a white nationalist because he knows that that's a bad thing to be.
And they're still getting support.
Yes,
and they're
but that's not the no. That is not, no. You cannot do that. Like, racism is way, way, way less of a deal in the ways that somebody like Nick Fuentes is a racist today than it ever has been before, because of the way that we've stigmatized these things, because of the way that
racism is still an issue.
Yes, I'm not saying that it's not still an issue. I'm saying that it's way less of an issue, and that somebody like Nick Fuentes is a great example of how even
someone like Nick Fuentes is stigmatized to the level that he is because people are pushing back against racism.
This is what I'm saying. Yes, this is what I'm saying.
Being open and going, like, the popularity of the BLM protests, and, like, I think people seeing the overwhelming support of that is what does the work. Like, you have to actually create that space to create solidarity and push back against these ideas. You're never going to reform some people. You just have to push them to the fringes.
Yeah, again, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that, like, over time, these things are changed and they're stigmatized in ways to where people are incentivized not to do these things over, like, more and more. That's just kind of how that works.
But right now, the incentive, what is the incentive for men to be better, like, feminists?
To be better feminists, there's not. The specific things are what's being stigmatized. Sexual harassment in the workplace is being stigmatized. Being overly aggressive with women is being stigmatized. Like, there's tons of specific things that are being stigmatized to where things are getting better and better for women.
Okay, but whenever it becomes stigmatized, everyone pushes back against that. The only reason it's becoming stigmatized is because feminists are speaking up about it.
Wait, that's what I'm saying. I don't know why you keep repeating that every time you're... Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So, it takes people talking about it and everyone agreeing that it's shitty behavior.
Yes, but this is what I'm talking about.
The same people talking about it are the feminists who get put in fucking cringe compilations because they said the word patriarchy.
Yeah.
So, like, what the fuck am I... It's like, you can't win either way.
That's not true. There are even mediums where you are capable of doing the same things without being a crazy person. I fully believe that.
I don't think that the majority of feminist takes are being a crazy person. I just don't.
I don't think that the majority are either, but there are people who are popular enough that somebody like, you know, libs of TikTok can go clip them acting like an idiot.
Libs of TikTok often just doxes people who are doing, like, nothing but being visibly gay.
Sure, that's not relevant. The point is that there are people who are...
That is entirely relevant.
No, it's not. The point is that there are people who are being cringe.
Do you know that story about that one cringe feminist picture that always gets used? The one with the really strained neck with the big thick glasses and the short pixie haircut? That woman was
the
done
redhead?
so fucking dirty. Not the redhead. The brunette one. That woman was done so fucking dirty because if you actually look at the video, she's super reasonable and actually really agreeable, but she just makes, like, big facial expressions. And she's painted as some fucking radical feminist now. For the rest of her life, her face is pasted on a bunch of fucking men talking about how she's like a man-hater. And that...
Yeah, sure.
She didn't say anything like that. So it doesn't matter what you do, they will still turn you into, like, a fucking scarecrow to throw darts at.
I don't think that's true. I don't think it's no matter what you do, because again, obviously progress is being made. Like, the needle is consistently being moved, but it continuously gets moved because lots of times we also stigmatize the crazy people within our movements who are making things worse. Like, what's her name? Freaking Benny the other day coming out with the video about, like, how trans women are actually biological women. Like, she knew what she was doing when she made that video. Benny, the woman who left TYT recently. Libs of TikTok went and shared her TikTok video, and everybody freaked out about it again. Do you think Libs of TikTok would have been more
generous to her had she said a more moderate version of that? Or do you think Libs of TikTok is still going to hate her no matter what?
I think they're going to hate her no matter what, but I don't think they're able to turn her takes into ammo. We're not no. This is not tone. This is not tone. We're not talking about tone here.
Yes, it is. This is the argument I was talking about on Twitter, where you're blaming people for their own marginalization. You're saying you're acting too crazy for us to consider systemic issues that affect you.
That is ridiculous. We're not talking about marginalization when they're going out there saying...
Libs of TikTok and all of them share, like, videos of black people committing crimes all the time. Because they're like, it reinforces their bias. No matter what, they're going to find some fucking way to try to paint a minority as unreasonable. It doesn't matter what you do. You cannot be a model minority.
Again, you're just bringing up the fact that, like, yes, they're not always going to be right. We disagree with these people, so obviously they're going to say a bunch of things that we disagree with as well. But when people on our side are also saying things that we disagree with, that is also a problem.
I'm saying that throwing our side under the bus does nothing but push people to the right by going like, oh, I guess the right has some good points.
I highly disagree.
Why do you think your audience seems to lean so centrist here?
Because we talk about problems on both sides. We talk about issues with everybody.
So how are you pushing forward like progressivism?
Because while I'm talking about the problems with what Jake is saying, I'm also talking about the systemic issues that are causing this and how I think we would move forward with it. Just as if I'm talking about the issues with what Benny is saying, I'm also talking about the true things in the face. Regardless of whether or not I change minds, these are the things that I'm talking about.
Isn't that the whole point of this is to change minds?
I think that that's the point, but I don't think that it's like ever going to be a one-to-one. Nobody is going to do that. And so all you can do is just go and advocate for the things that you believe in and make the best arguments you possibly can.
Believe in, but it's not, you can't change mind. Like, I just don't, it sounds...
I'm not saying you can't change minds. You know I didn't say that. You know I didn't say that you can't change minds.
You said it's not about changing minds. You just have to advocate for what
No, I said it's not. No, I did not say that. I said it's not a one-to-one. Like, I know that I'm not going to change, like, each and every person's mind each time I talk about something. There's always going to be people who disagree with me. What?
I would assume you hope to push some people.
Yes, of course. That's why I talk about these things. That's why I debate them. That's why and that's what I'm talking about, is the fact that I think what's most important is making a place where people who may not believe in the same things as me are given a place where they feel comfortable staying and listening to it. I don't think that's what everybody should do. I don't think everybody should do that. There's like, it's good for people to have safe spaces and echo chambers and all that other crap too. That's fine. But this is what I do. I want to make a place where other people can hear my ideas. And yes, I'm going to get upset with people who are on the left saying ridiculous things. And I think that when I do that, people on the right feel heard. They feel like I'm a little bit more rational. I'm going to make a little bit more sense, and they're more likely to listen to something that I have to say in the future.
I just don't think that, like, reinforcing people's biases is very effective at actually changing their minds over time. Like, maybe you'll get them to concede on a couple of points, but then that's how we just end up with, like, leftists who are class reductionist, you know, or like they only have a couple of pet issues.
Yeah, sure. Like, people move over time. That's not, nobody just turns into a leftist overnight.
So like somebody
openness.
So there always has to be somebody down the line that's saying something a little more extreme.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I just don't understand why the issue is with saying stuff like using actual feminist terms or talking about shit in a way that doesn't seem to appeal to, like, the right.
I'm saying that people are going to push ineffective messaging. They're going to be bad representatives. And when they are, you should push back against that. You should have issues with those people as well.
I don't think
if you're
pushing
not
back against it. I think what you're doing is you're signal boosting it and making it look like it's a bigger deal than it really is.
It doesn't matter either way. Like
it does matter.
I don't think it does.
I feel like you're giving an inaccurate representation of these things if you're focusing on like a handful of people and then like intensely nitpicking them.
No, so like one thing that I talk about probably more than anything else is gender. and talking about trans issues and stuff like that. Because obviously I think that's like the biggest social issue that we have right now that is making the most change at the fastest rate. And when we have people who come out and say, hey, I am a biological woman and there's literally no difference between me and somebody who was born a female, yes, I think that it makes sense for me to come out and say, hey, I obviously don't agree with that. And if the positions that I'm trying to convince you guys of has nothing to do with that. That is somebody totally different than me.
I'm going to, but here's the thing. I'm going to ask you, what is that all there is to that take? Because I've seen a lot of trans women say this exact argument where I am a biological woman. But what they mean is like biologically, because they've had HRT and shit like that, that there is no like physical difference at this point between them and a cis woman. And they they literally have a sex marker like legally on their paper that says female.
Right.
But so at that point, I understand why somebody would make the argument, like, technically, I am a biological female.
So when you're trying to convince people of, like, the differences between sex and gender, just getting them to buy into that there is a difference between sex and gender in the first place, and then once you get them to understand those two things, or that they are two different things, then you try to get them to understand the two different things. But while you're trying to do that, there's somebody on the other side saying, no, I am this thing. The things that you're trying to convince them of are actually wrong, and the things that they believe I'm saying, I'm actually saying those things. So lots of times conservatives will reduce trans women are women to they think that they were born females and they're delusional. And I'm trying to convince them nobody's actually saying that. Nobody really is saying that. There's a big difference.
The kinds of people who say that trans women aren't women are not going to be convinced by you like wishy-washy trying to convince them. And even if you do, then you have this middle space. Okay, so even then you have this middle ground where they're like, okay, I'm willing to accept that socially a trans woman can be treated like a woman, like a cis woman, and I will use their pronouns to make them feel comfortable, but like they're still not on they can use female spaces or they could participate in sports, which is still a problem that we need to address.
Yeah, that's sure. I don't know. Yeah, okay. There's like a
so somebody's then
people
going to come behind
things,
you and say, I am a biological woman.
Okay.
Like, we talked about the need for a gradient in perspectives. We've said that there are different people at different stages of this. But then you knock the people beyond you who are saying things that aren't actually that fucking crazy and pretending like they're crazy so that you can then validate what the right wing is saying. No, you are making them a straw man. You are propping them up and setting them up as ammo for the right to reaffirm their biases.
They turn themselves into ammo.
You took that person, propped her up, and said, look, right-wingers, you're correct about the left sometimes.
Yes. Yes,
They're not going to be convinced by that.
I'm saying, yes, there are people like that you guys are talking about, but that's not the majority. When Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro or whoever props them up and says, hey, this is all of them, I'm telling you, this isn't all of them. There are people who actually make sense and who actually understand that is a little bit different from what we're actually talking about. Just as I know lots of socialists who don't want to be associated with accelerationists, and they're going to push back against accelerationist stuff, or
I think it's fine when it's like legitimate bad takes. I hate it whenever it's like it's actually not something that's that fucking crazy, but it gets painted as crazy. Or like there's no empathy when approaching the thing. Like now I'm super interested about this like video that you're talking about, the biological woman thing, because I feel like it's going to be exactly the take I've heard. And once I had someone break that down for me, it was like, oh, yeah, I mean, you're kind of right.
They're not
Like,
kind of right. That's the problem. They're not kind of right. Like, obviously, there are biological differences being made to their body, but when we're talking about a biological woman, we're talking about chromosomes, we're talking about gametes, we're talking about...
Oh, God, you sound like a transphobe whenever you talk. You're literally saying the exact same thing that transphobes say, though. Like,
Wait,
clearly
no,
you're further...
No, hold on. When we're talking about biological females...
That is biological determinism.
Yes. Wait, that is the difference. Yes, of course. If you're acting like trans people are transitioning their biological sex...
What do you think HRT is?
HRT is changing the way that your body is going through puberty so that you can present the other gender.
Okay, what makes us develop into the gender? Because we all start at the same point as an embryo. Humans, we start technically female. And what makes us go one sex or the other?
Your chromosomes?
The hormones?
No, your chromosomes. Your chromosomes are what cause the hormones.
Yes, so they determine what hormones are released in your body, and then the hormones are what give you the gendered characteristics that we see as part of these genders, right?
Right.
Okay, so if somebody who post-fetus stage injects a bunch of fucking hormones into their body, bypassing their chromosomes, like biohacking their body...
Now they're making it to where they're more capable of presenting as the other gender. These are, like, it's another way of getting more gendered characteristics that help you present as the other gender.
I'm just so much further beyond... Like, biology is insane to me, because it really is just all down to these tiny little things, and you can, like, physically change your body with hormones and operations and all of this and look exactly like the gender you want to be.
You can, to a certain extent.
I just think it's a little silly to waffle over, like, oh, is it biological or not? Like,
it's not, because when people think that you're literally incapable of engaging with reality, it's important to actually show that you are grounded in some sort of, like, factual basis.
Reality is that, like, human sex is not these, like, two immutable characteristics like the way that they are. It's so much more complicated than that when you get into the science of, like, how humans develop.
That's true. Yes, of course, it's bimodal, but no biologist is going to say that just because it's bimodal that there's not, like, two sexes, and that there's not, and even the two sexes are, like, how we get gendered characteristics, and that's why people take HRT and they take hormones so that they can present those gendered characteristics, but that doesn't change the chromosomes or the gametes, and they even like
chromosomes and gametes aren't something we interact with. Like, I guarantee you,
they're not, and they're not. That's why we're talking about.
I've never had my chromosomes checked.
You are correct. That's why we're talking about biology and not a social
not even fucking
interaction.
Relevant.
It is relevant because this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about when we're talking about something that is actually factual basis versus something that is, like, more socially constructed. This is why it's important to separate the two so that you can explain that, yes, I still believe in biology. I still believe in facts. I'm not engaging in some fantasy land. Obviously, biology and science is still a real thing, but the social thing is something totally different, and that's more so what we're talking about when we're talking about gender.
I just think that it's not a far enough take to me. It's middle ground stuff, and I think we have bigger brains. We are a very scientifically advanced species, and I think we could talk a little further than just, like, having
we might be going
into
backwards.
these positions. Well, we'll see. I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, like, to me, that's an important thing. I think it's important for people to actually acknowledge these things. I don't want to harm any trans people. I don't want it to, like, affect their dysphoria in any way. All the trans people in my community are upset with people like Benny when they say those things because I feel like it hurts the trans movement, but there's always like, I feel like lots of people will call them pick-me's or something like that. I don't know.
Look, I really need to sleep because I'm going to Ren Fair tomorrow.
Yep. We've gone in really odd directions.
What I will say is that I do agree that, like, we need a gradient of perspectives. We need people to, like, it's got to be a pipeline, but I just don't think it's effective for people you just don't see, like Ben Shapiro doesn't often take his time to, like, make fun of Nick Fuentes, right? They don't do that. They just keep pushing
Ben Shapiro does, down. But lots of other right-wingers don't.
I guess that is a bad example. No, he might
Ben
be
Shapiro's
the only
Jewish, so yes, he takes
Matt
a lot
Walsh.
of time
Matt
to
Walsh
do it,
probably wouldn't fucking like, he doesn't spend his time talking about, like, people who are more radical down the line on his side, right? Because it's in his best interest to keep pushing people down that line. So if that's the case, I don't understand why the left constantly feels like that our tactic should be to take people further down the line of leftism and then call them crazy and act like that's going to win us anything. I think it just pushes you over to the window. So
that you guys don't want people to just become liberals and then say, well, at least they're closer to our side, so we're really just allies. No, there's things that you disagree with them on, and that's not good enough to just say that, like, now they're closer to you, so it's pretty much the same thing. Like, no, you want to I can't think of the word, but there's a very specific word that's used on the left a lot that's like, or a phrase where you're picking people out and, like, kicking them out of the group. It's purity testing. Yes, purity testing is obviously a pretty...
That's a behavior, and I will say I'm much more on the, like, coalition building type. Like, I have people I definitely disagree with, but I still think that they're valuable in what they do. Like, I don't agree with everything Vaush says, but I'm glad that he's popular and talks about leftist things, because I think that's how you get... Like, you draw people in by being entertaining and talking about, like, positive talking about the politics that you want to push them toward. And making sense and appealing to them and being an entertaining speaker. And, like, I don't agree with everything he says, but I'm glad he does what he does. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. If you ever have anything you want to talk about, hit me up.
All right.
All right, later.
I should talk to Tomfoolery. Who? Who? To how many viewers? Just you? Give me, like... Why do I care about watching the Shoe0nhead thing? He disagrees? Or something? Whom stuff? Yeah. That's it? It's the whole thing? Come on, man. Trying to make magic happen. And the magic is you're his producer? Okay. You're trying to make magic happen. I don't know who this guy is. You want me to fucking Google his ass? Like, what?
He's saying that he wants a link. He says he has an old Vaush vibe.
Have you ever done this before? Like, I don't even know what his opinion is. I don't know, like...
I didn't think I could link. It's Twitch, yeah, you can send links on Twitch. Last time I've played a video game was 2010.
How am I friends with Zonia? Who? Omega lol? Who are these people? Nobody.
I'm sorry. I just like Sonya. I feel like it's like a super random name to bring up. That's funny.
Who knows these? What are you talking about? Who? Do you guys like do panels or something? Who are these fucking children in my mention? Like, what is happening right now? How do you not know Zonia? How? What the fuck? I don't. How do you know?
Yeah, you're screwing up not knowing Zonia, bro.
Better
What the
have
hell?
10 million subscribers.
She better have 10 million
You
subscribers.
think your critique of Shoe is wrong, that she is just entertainment? Well, that sounds brain dead as fuck. Congratulations.
That has nothing to do with his criticism. I appreciate the attempt, Sass. You're good. I appreciate you. Well done. 07's in chat for Sass, everybody. She's the one who went over and tried to make things happen. She's the one who did it. All you bums didn't do it.
Bro, come talk to Mr. Malarkey and Sharpie 332103. You don't know Mr. Bambler Club? Bambler Club is the best streamer on the platform.
Because truly, like, yeah, it's like like you call somebody tomfoolery, and it sounds like such like a random name if you don't know who that is. Or like, what is that even a real person? Are you just making up names right now?
Wasn't he on one of your Twitch panels way back in the day?
Him? No.
I felt like he was on one of your Twitch panels. From maybe it must have been another one. Maybe it was like a Mindwaves panel or something.
Yes, he was on a couple of Mindwaves panels.
That must have been it. I thought for some reason it was one of your panels. Huh.
You are not the first person to confuse Mindwaves panels with my panels for some reason. We're both the...
Well, you both have the same hairline, so it's understandable.
Yeah, skinny white dudes who wear hats, yeah.